Right then, welcome back to the channel. It's here. We are bang in the middle now of the quarterfinals, and it's England versus France. If England can get past France, one, I'm going to have a lot of apologies that I need to dish out, particularly over to Mr. Gareth Southgate. There's also a very real chance England could find themselves in a World Cup final. And if they end up in a World Cup final, they end up winning it, they've done it. They've done it by having to beat some sensational sides. They have. From here on in, there is not an easy route. You've got the reigning champions standing in front of you in a quarter final. You've got a Morocco team which is banging, or you've got Portugal standing in front of you. Then you've got what the hell's going on the other side of the bracket as well, which is probably where the favourites are coming from. This is it, big boy time. It's time to step up, put up or shut up, win or off you pop, you're going home. Now, let's have a look at both teams. They topped their group without much trouble. They arguably both took a game off. They've both been imperious in attack. England banged in 12 goals in just 4 matches, with 8 different players finding the net, which bodes very well for England. They've gone 3 consecutive games at the World Cup without conceding, but on the other side, they've also scored at least 3 goals in 3 out of 4 World Cup performances, which is not to be sniffed at. France have allowed a goal in all 4 games at the World Cup, and are just 1 clean sheet in their last 10 games, which doesn't necessarily bode as well, but I think it's because of how much confidence that the French side has. They're like, yep, no problem. We're going to leave ourselves a little bit vulnerable at the back because we are all about attacking. France play a 4-2-3-1, which for the most part has looked a little bit outdated, but it's proved pretty fruitful for Deschamps as he's been utilising it. They like to have a possession-based style of football where players can have a little bit of a fluid system. They find a little bit of freedom. They move around the pitch. But there's also players that have got certain roles that they need to fulfill. Players like Tchouaméni have become vital for this team because they've got an ability to break pressure by finding space in between the lines and breaking lines with passes. One of the first things that we've already seen during the competition is probably the movements of Antoine Griezmann, who I think has been slowly going about his business, just looking sensational. And beyond starting positionally as a 10, is the one player in the team that seems to have the most freedom of movement and finds himself everywhere, essentially. He normally seeks to drop out of his zone, right next to Giroud, supports it in the base along with Rabiot and Tchouaméni in the middle of midfield. He assists with ball progression, which is quality at. And you can see him just popping up in pockets of little spaces to offer an option, whether the fullbacks are in possession, if the centre-halves are in possession, if the wingers are in possession. He's just a little bit of a conductor for this French side. And I think that makes France able to progress the ball very quickly, and it makes him particularly deadly for this team. Unsurprisingly, the main threat that they've got comes from Mbappe. But if you sleep on Dembele, you're stupid. You can go both ways past you. And I think you have to be switched on, and you have to front him up, and you have to get tight to him. You can't give him any space, because then you're trying to guess, is he going left or is he going right? You can't do that. You're going to have to get handsy with him. You're going to have to be a bit fouly with him as well. But you also can't ignore Giroud. Giroud is excellent in the air. He's got brilliant movement inside the box. And the guy's just broke Thierry Henry's goal-scoring record for France. That is not to be sniffed at. He is a threat. The entire forward three is a threat. And then if you ignore Griezmann, that's operating in behind and pulling the strings like a little puppet master, you're going to be in trouble. So you have to be aware of them. Starting 11 from France, I would expect Lloris, Koundé, Varane, Upamecano, Theo Hernandez, Rabiot, Tchouaméni, Griezmann, Dembele, Mbappe, and Giroud. And then they've got some pretty badass players that are coming off the bench. Starman, Kylian Mbappe, obviously. Probably this World Cup, the big players have stepped up, and that's what's a great thing to see. He's got 5 goals in 3 starts at the World Cup. Ridiculous pace, ridiculous skill. He's got finishing. He's got confidence, which I think is the most important thing, and he's having himself. And I think he's also at the point where he can kind of go like, he doesn't feel under pressure to just cut about the place and run and sort of prove his worth to the team. He's got the confidence and arrogance, if you like, to just cut about the place, walk in, Yeah, if I get involved, I get involved. And if I get involved, maybe I'll score. And that makes him absolutely lethal. England, I think Southgate goes to a back three, and I also think it's the correct thing to do. So England, I would imagine, line up with Pickford, a back three of Kyle Walker on the right hand side, Harry Maguire on the left, with John Stones in the centre. And you're looking at Kyle Walker, John Stones being over sort of the right hand side to deal with Mbappe as he comes in from the left hand side. Harry Maguire to deal with the aerial threat that you've got with Giroud. Luke Shaw to try and deal with the pace and trickery of Dembele with Harry Maguire as a secondary option. Don't really fancy Harry Maguire going up against Dembele, but I'd rather him go up against Dembele than I would Mbappe, because that could get quite embarrassing for him. Midfield for England, I actually think they bring Henderson in, and it does make sense why they would do that. You bring Henderson in because he's just going to offer a little bit of a screen to sort of that wide channel where Mbappe is, especially if Theo Hernandez is getting involved as well, because you're going to want Trippier and Walker to try to deal with that threat. So if they get dragged out of position, this is where Griezmann's going to operate. Bring Henderson in, just shut that down there. He did that excellently protecting Trent, as Trent has been so adventurous. So it's a role that he's kind of used to. You've got to play Declan Rice because I think he's just an underrated footballer, and he offers a great protection to that back line. And you have to play Jude Bellingham because he is a match winner for England. Wing backs, Trippier, and he's in there as much for his set piece delivery as he is for his open play abilities. Luke Shaw on the left. And then this is the key part. Harry Kane has got to be allowed to come back deep and play make. Can he release Bellingham and slingshot him past him? Can he find Trippier high and wide in space? Can he find Luke Shaw pushing on in behind the French fullbacks? And can he find Marcus Rashford, who's going to partner him, who should be partnering him? If he decides to go with a Saka or a Foden or even a Wilson, these are players that are going to want the ball to feet, or a Grealish. You're going to have France operating with an extremely high line, and the chance to beat them is to get in behind them. And I actually think if they line up with that sort of 11 that I've mentioned, you could swap in Mount for Henderson if you're feeling like the protection of three allows you to be a little bit more adventurous in midfield. That's fine. But I think if you went with a very combative midfield that tries to stop what France is doing and rely on those pacey outlets that you've got to transition well, to win the ball and to put the ball in behind a high French line, I think that you've got the opportunity. You have to go in with a game plan of, this is how we'll attack. You can't just say, we'll contain them doing this. You have to go, but. There has to be the but. We're going to stop them doing this, but here's how you win the game. Otherwise, what are you doing? Now, I've given Southgate a lot of stick for some of his decisions. And a lot of people try to defend him, saying, no, he's saving Marcus for this game. Let's see it. Let's see it. Because if it isn't Marcus in this game, literally this is the game for Marcus Rashford. Do you think Varane wants to go up and try and do doggies chasing Marcus Rashford all night long? They are going to be so happy if you put a player that plays in front of them. If it's Harry Maguire and somebody else like Foden that wants to play ball in front of you, France will eat that up all day long. Pace is deadly. And one of the biggest assets for Kylian Mbappe is the guy's absolutely rapid. But Marcus is on a par with him when it comes to raw pace. Let him play and let him take the game to him. Otherwise, what was the fucking point? The match winner for England, one, Marcus Rashford, but also Jude Bellingham. He is a genuine box-to-box midfielder. And I think the midfield could be France's weakness. The defence is sick. The attack is sick. So it's not really a weakness, but probably the weakest area is there. It'll be a battle in there. And if you can make it a battle in there, I think it actually suits Henderson, Rice and Bellingham. I think they could probably cope with it. The third man runs that you get from Bellingham are brilliant. They're genius. 19-year-old doing the things that he's doing. I might even call him genius. He's got physicality. He's got athleticism. He'll be a great matchup against Tchouaméni. It'd be interesting to see if he can drag. You could overwhelm Tchouaméni by having Harry Kane drop off to him one side and have Bellingham slingshot on the other side, and Tchouaméni might be caught in two minds like, shit, Do I stay with Kane? Do I pick Bellingham up? And that little split-second confusion at this level can be enough for someone to find a little bit of a gap and get away. And if then you can find and release Marcus Rashford, listen, pace is pace. Pace, quicker players beat slower players, and that's that. There's an opportunity for Jude Bellingham to stamp his authority all over the world stage. And I think Marcus will have a point to prove after being left out of the last game, which I think was unfair on him. But that's it. And how do England beat France? Mbappe versus Walker will be huge because he will run in off behind him, and Walker is one of the few players that can match him pace for pace. And I've seen a couple of people saying, just put in pace for pace, that's not all there is to defending. No, it's not, but it's a massive part of it. And we saw how Axel Tuanzebe actually dealt with Mbappe really well because Axel's absolutely rapid. Kyle Walker can do the same sort of thing. His pace will be essential, covering for the lack of pace that is everywhere else at centre-half in the England defence. You're going to have to be good in the wide areas, and I think that's why you push to a back three, and it allows your wing-backs to sort of get out there with no fear, attacking and defensively. You could also potentially throw, if you wanted to go with Kyle Walker as a wing-back even, or even just go as a flat back five, you could potentially look at Marcus as a left wing-back, or even they could do a back three and go 3-4-3 and still play the forward three. That's a little bit more adventurous, and I don't think Southgate would do that. But, could Marcus get the nod on the left wing if he did that? And then it's on the transition. France will have the possession. France will have a high line. Can you be deadly on the counter? Can you be big on the transition? Poland managed to get in behind them. Teams have scored against them. They don't score many, but they have scored, and they do give you a bit of a chance. So can you take that chance? That'll be the interesting thing. Either way, it's going to be an absolute mega game. I haven't got a ticket yet, but I think I'll be all right. Please get your score prediction in below, and let's see how it goes. See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.